What's going on, YouTube? My name is Dave Sarner, and I'm the host of the Rise and Fall Fantasy Football Show. Welcome to the Week 5 edition. Now, in today's episodes, we are joined again by our co-host, Matthew Ferreira from the 4th and 1 Pod, as we break down every single matchup for Week 5, identify every single player that you guys need to have in your lineups. Now, in previous episodes, we did our news, notes, and updates at the beginning of the episode before all the game analysis. However, this week we decided to do that per game basis, so when you click on those timestamps, you'll get your news, notes, and updates for that particular game right before you get our analysis. Now, without further ado, enjoy the episode. So, Matt, let's get into these Week 5 matchups here. We start off with a pretty damn good matchup, in my opinion. You got the Buccaneers going up against the Bears on Thursday Night Football. Now, let's start with the Bucs. Chris Godwin was out last week. Mike Evans went off. Scotty Miller had a great game.
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette was out. So, Ron John, 15.8 fantasy points, 20 touches, 111 yards. Man, I just wish that there was no one behind him so he could just be the guy because –
Yeah.
9 targets, 6 receptions. That's great,
Leonard Fournette coming in really fucked up his his year, not gonna lie.
I mean, he was a guy who I knew was being kept everywhere, and then Leonard Fournette just came and said, "You know what? Go fuck yourself."
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much what he said, and I don't know what to do with them this week, and I didn't know what to do with them last week, until I saw that Leonard Fournette was out, Matt. I want to say you stick with Ron John and, hopefully he'll be the guy, but Fournette's going to definitely eat into that production. I hate them this week against Chicago. And we'll go into the rankings. I'll show you why. But let's go into a guy, with O.J. Howard out, right? He had a good game, Matt. Is it this week? Is it the Rob Gronkowski show? Or as we see there, is Cameron Brate going to be the guy that's just going to snipe in and get the touchdowns?
I would think, I thought, beginning of this year, that it was going to be all Rob Gronkowski. I thought that's all we were going to see in the red zone. I thought it was going to be everybody else to get up and down the field. When we got to the red zone, they'd rely on that connection he has with Brady. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen at some point. I don't know that it's this week, though. I really don't. I've got to say it's probably going to be Cameron Brate.
I'm kind of right there with you. Part of me wants to go Gronk, and I actually went with him some lineups, and he got me 0 points. So, hey, GG's. But I just don't see it, especially with Godwin back. I think it goes right back to Godwin. I think the guy who might benefit the most is Scotty Miller. Now, granted, I guarantee you Gronk will get like a touchdown this week. So, let me get that go. So, my laundry's done. But... at the end of the day, I'm not sold on the tight ends for this team. We heard it from Bruce Arians. Tight ends are just not exactly, utilized in this offense, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I think Scotty Miller's a better investment. I'm sure people picked him up last week. If you did, you're happy. Had a good game. 7 targets, 5 catches for 83 and a touch. Solid production there. On the other side of things, Matt, the Bears and Indy. Now, some people thought that game was going to be more of a shootout, and I was stunned that they thought that. I mean, I literally said on this show, it's going to be a defensive battle. David Montgomery's going to struggle. The whole team as a whole is going to struggle. I don't know what the hell happened with, Robinson's stats on here, but the only guy that popped off is Allen Robinson. And Anthony Miller screwed me for the second week that I thought he was going to go.
Yeah, same. Anthony Miller screwed me too many times at this point that I'm just like, all right, bro, you're about to be done.
Listen, we didn't talk about him in the segment, but Anthony Miller you can drop.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
It seems like Darnell Mooney has more of a role here. He's getting more production than Anthony Miller. Jimmy, I was high on last week. We're not high on him this week. And now, Matt, let's take a look why. So I added a little something that you're not actually familiar with, unless you watched my video last week, which I'll know if you did or not. If you said But we got the team ranks here. So what you're looking at is this is the points against or the rank against fantasy point wise. So the Bears really tough against the quarterback position. They're a little bit more lenient against the running backs and the tight end, which kind of sucks because what we just talked about. Now we're saying, oh, O.J. Howard's gone, Rob Gronkowski. Well, it's a good matchup. So it's like it's baiting me to want to do it, Matt. It really is. But I'm not going to fall for it. I know the receivers is tougher here, but it is the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, and I do still expect at least one of these wide receivers to go off here.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, Buccaneers are stingy on defense. You called that week 2, I believe.
They're very good, yeah.
Quarterback 29th, get points against. They're letting up the 21st most least amount of points to running backs, the 21st most points against wide receivers, 22nd against tight ends. I guess really, Matt, the only question is Allen Robinson or bust, right?
Pretty much. I don't know if you can trust anybody else. You know, David Montgomery's still doing his whole inconsistency shit. So, I mean, Nick Foles might be a decent bye week play here, or flex option if you have that option in one of your leagues. But it's definitely tough sledding.
It's definitely tough. And it's funny. I know you had Nick Foles in our league, so I know he didn't do that great last week. I do think he'll
I am
have
gonna
a decently
lose
better
that
game.
league. I am 0-4. Like, I cannot catch a break.
What is it that you have to wear Ohio State jersey?
It might be the mascot outfit, and I've
Okay.
got to carry a
Oh,
Spider-Man
no.
that says "I suck" through the streets of probably
Really?
Asbury or Red Bank.
I just want to see you walking around as with a walnut head, essentially. Whatever the
Dude,
hell
I'm gonna
that
be
his head
so
is.
fucking upset. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm gonna go on a rant here. I'm sorry for anyone who listens to. Actually, I'm not sorry. Fuck Ohio State. But how is your mascot a nut? Like, who is just sitting there looking at possible mascots? Like, well, actually, here we could be a nut. It's slightly poisonous. Like, go fuck yourself, you fucking butt. But anyway, yeah.
But hey, listen, you can't deny that they have some production coming out from the NFL style. Not a quarterback apparently, because certain player for
I'm
the
not
Washington
going to
football team.
compliment the Washington football team if that's what you're asking me to
No,
do.
no, no. I would never tell you
That's
to
where they've
compliment.
all
I'm not even
gone. That's
complimenting.
where they've all gone.
Listen, I'm personally not even complimenting him at this point. It's just we'll get to them. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
Going back to the Buccaneers, Matt. So I think when we look at this, our must starts of the week, you're obviously going to go, even though the matchup is tough, you're going to go with your wide receivers, right?
Yeah.
Chris Godwin, Mike Evans,
Is
Allen
Godwin
Robinson.
in? Is Godwin back this week?
If he's back, I don't know. I don't think he's supposed to be back. So if he's
I
not
don't think
back,
so either.
yeah, no. If he's not back, Scotty Miller, I do like him still, even if it's a tough wide receiver core. They're gonna key in. I mean, Kyle Fuller is gonna be on Mike Evans most likely, and you'll have Eddie Jackson kind of like shadowing that a little bit. I think. If that occurs, then I think Scotty Miller has a pretty big day. Mike Evans, even though he might be the only guy, Matt, I am a little scared about him this week. I think it could be one of those 0 days for him.
Mike Evans is such a 50-50 guy in my book because sometimes he's amazing and sometimes he's just absolute dog shit. So he's personally on my list of receivers to avoid because he's burned me 2 different years in fantasy. So I'm personally not going after him, but there is logic to getting him if you can. Yeah, that being said, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Listen, if you could risk it, there might be better plays this week, and I get it. You're not going to take him out of your lineup, and I'm not expecting you to. But just be mindful. Keep in the back of your mind. Let me be that little devil on your shoulder that tells you you should sit him this week. I could be wrong, but don't listen to me. It's okay. You'll be wrong again this week. Outside of that, running backs again. We said it, man. It's a tough matchup for David Montgomery, particularly. You know me, Matt. 3 weeks in a row, I've been down on David Montgomery. It ain't changing this week.
Which is so disappointing. I had such high hopes for him last year. I really thought he was going to be the guy.
I had him last year, and the thing I saw was he just didn't have that it factor. The factor that I can see from guys like Clyde Edwards-Helaire at times, even Antonio Gibson at times, some of these younger guys who just explode. I just don't see that from David Montgomery. He's not going to get you those big chunk yards really ever. He's very touchdown dependent, and this could be a lower scoring touchdown game. I think you sit David Montgomery this week. I really don't like him. Jimmy Graham, you sit. You could take a chance with Rob Gronkowski, but Matt and I are telling you now, Cameron Brate's going to get the touchdown most likely, and F you if you're a Rob Gronkowski owner. On the other side of that, Matt, Ron John, 16th against the run. I know Leonard Fournette's back.
Can you go back really quick?
Yeah.
Okay. No, Keyshawn Vaughn didn't have a terrible week.
No, he had some receptions, 3 for 2, 22 yards and a touch. But again, I think that declines with Fournette back. Do you go with Ron John this week, or let me say this? I'm starting a guy like Joshua Kelly over Ron John. Yes or no?
Look, I'm looking at I would too, because I'm like, and obviously I'm very biased. I'm a Giants fan. I don't think there's too many people who would disagree that Saquon Barkley is probably the most talented running back in the league. If he couldn't get that much going against the Bears, I'm not super optimistic for Ronald Jones. The big difference maker is they have actual threats on the outside that might open up some lanes, but I'm not huge on Jones's, potential here. Like they can get back there, they can rock it up. I'm not loving it. If you have another way to go, maybe don't go with Ronald Jones.
I agree with you. I'm going to try to sit him if I can. If I have him, if you have a more concrete option, you're ready for disappointment with Leonard Fournette coming back. And personally, I am going to try to stay away from him. So we got 36 seconds here to recap. You're going to start Tom Brady, even a tough matchup here. You're going to start Mike Evans. I do like Scotty Miller. We like Cameron Brate to get a touchdown as our kind of a sleeper pick. We're not suggesting you start him by any means.
Don't start him.
No,
don't start him.
No. But I think
maybe
he's gonna.
Yeah.
I think it's like a bold prediction. Let's say,
I'd agree with that.
Next, Nick Foles. I'm personally going to sit him this week. I don't really like the matchup. Allen Robinson, you start. Jimmy Graham, you sit. Anthony Miller, you can drop. David Montgomery, sit.
Yeah, agreed. Pretty much start the wide receivers on the Bucs.
Yep, I agree. So, Matt, moving on to the next matchup here, we got a team that didn't play this week.
Titans.
Bills and the Titans. Titans, I'm not sure when the hell Adoree Jackson is going to be back, but I think he's eligible now, so we'll see if he ever comes back or not. Matt, the Bills have been scoring a ton of points.
They have been putting in work.
I mean, really putting in work, and every week it seems like different receivers stepping up outside of like Diggs, who's consistent. But you got Cole Beasley, Gabriel Davis. I highlighted them because maybe they're guys we said a couple weeks ago, no Cole Beasley. Maybe we do. Cole's actually doing pretty damn good.
Yeah. Stats really don't lie. I mean, although I don't love his target share right now. Not going to deny that. But he's been doing work.
He's consistently getting around 10 points a week.
Yeah.
Pretty much doing that. I mean, nothing sexy. 32 for those who can't see. 3 for 32 and a touch. Not much there.
Yeah,
but
it's not amazing. But
I think in a high passing offense that doesn't utilize tight ends, he is a pretty consistent player there. Whereas I think we're seeing kind of a ping pong match between Gabriel Davis and like John Brown on occasion. That's disappointing for me, Matt. John Brown just not doing anything this week. I didn't start him, so I was smart about that. But last week he did screw me a little bit. I think this Titans team is not as good defensively as they like from a fantasy standpoint as they are in real life. And I think you can score points against them. Let's take a look, Matt, before we get into the Titans. I have to click off this every time. The Titans, Matt, pretty, like I said, they're not as great in fantasy perspective as you would think. 9th against the run in terms of they give it the 9th most fantasy points, 9th most to tight ends and running backs, 12th most to wide receivers, and 15th most to quarterbacks. Obviously, you're going to start Josh. Yeah, you're going to start Josh Allen. Ironically, the strongest points on the Bills are where they're a little bit better, 15th and 12th. But you're going to start Devin Singletary this week, in my opinion. He's a must start of the week for you against a team, even though they had a bye to kind of prepare for this. Trust me, that whole week, the first week, they were preparing for the first game. So it's still on the same timetable here. It's not like they're getting that much work, maybe a day. Like Devin Singletary, I'm still not going to go with Dawson Knox or any tight end. Maybe Tyler Kroft could do something here. Is that who they have? Tyler Kroft? Maybe he could get in there. He had a touchdown 2 weeks ago, but I'm not going to bank on that. Matt, my biggest question for you, though, is John Brown. I mean, the Bills. Do I start him this week? Is this a matchup? Like we said, 12th against wide receivers. They give up points in yards. Do I do it, though?
I'm going no. I'm going no on John Brown. I mean, it's a Stephon Diggs show at this point. John Brown is good. I just don't love those numbers.
I kind of agree with you. In my opinion, I'm using John Brown if he's playing top 10, top 11, maybe defenses, or top 10, really. 12th, it's debatable. If you don't have anyone else you could throw in, I think he's a decent option. But if you have more concrete options, I do think also maybe you do shy away from John Brown. Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley is too much of a variable in his production.
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Diggs is consistent. So you go with him. Devin Singletary, we start him this week. I really like him against this Titans defense. They're not as good. I think they lost some players too. So
then I mean the Titans are fucking up. Titans almost ruined this for everyone.
They're almost rooting for everyone, and honestly, AJ Brown has really ruined a lot of people's seasons, I think. Looking at the
Yeah,
Titans,
yes.
I mean, we don't have stats from last week, Matt, but reality is, no AJ Brown has really curbed this offense, in my opinion. Janu Smith has been good, but he has a cap kind of. You can look at
Yeah.
this and say 9.66. I'd say 8 points is his floor, but his ceiling's not that much higher without AJ Brown. It's just unfortunate. I think he
There's
could
no
be
one to
top
pull.
eight.
Yeah, there's no one to pull targets off. I
Right.
agree with that.
Exactly. Corey Davis, I think Yahoo's starting to agree with me that he's not good. 7.2 he's projected with AJ Brown, hopefully back this week. In this matchup, 24th running backs. I know you're going to start Derrick Henry, but it could be a tough outing for Derrick Henry this week. Just be mindful of that. I do like AJ Brown against the 11th ranked Bills offense. That could be a high scoring game, or defense rather. I think Ryan Tannehill could be an interesting flyer this week. I think he could do some things. And Matt, even though I said that about Janu Smith, I love him this week. 6 against tight ends the Bills are doing. Like we said, I think even with AJ Brown back, Janu is going to be the second option here. And if they can get it going, I really like Janu Smith this week.
Yeah. I would say one thing to kind of note here, I don't know if it'll really make a difference. If the Titans do get down, how much do you see Derrick Henry still impacting the game?
Well, that's where my fear comes with him. I think when we looked at his stats, he's not getting you the
He's
reception.
he's so if he gets game scripted out, which I don't think you can completely do for him, I think he's still going to bulldoze people. So you can't totally write him out, but it's not a situation you'd want to be in. If you have him, you have to start him. I would avoid him in daily.
Yeah, I agree. Daily, I'm not going for him. I actually really agree with that. Like that was where I was going to get to the game script. If it turns into a shootout where Titans are behind, they're going to give Derrick Henry some carries. I mean, they always do. I mean, it's their offense, but it could definitely curb. I mean, I could see this being like a 9-point week for him, 10-point week, which is not great for a guy who's supposed to get you 20 points a week.
Yeah, exactly, for a first round pick.
Right. So I'm personally higher on Janu Smith than I am Derrick Henry this week. And AJ Brown for that matter. I think AJ Brown could be a really interesting DFS play. They clearly been missing him. I know with him back, Ryan's going to take some deep shots to him.
Yeah.
Like we said here, 11th.
The thing is, they're built so much off the play action that's really like they need their defense to step up here.
Exactly.
Like the Titans defense is really going to be the deciding factor in this game, but I don't know if they can do anything against what Josh Allen's bringing to the table right now. At least hope not.
I mean, I think they're going to have a shot. I mean, we saw how the Raiders played against them. I mean, they were in it. They were in that.
Yeah.
But I mean, we didn't see Josh Jacobs explode. Really, we didn't see. I mean, they had no passing game to deal with. But Darren Waller, he had a good game, but he didn't go off. So I think overall the Bills could be a really tough defense, but they're letting up so much points. I get that, but they've also gone up against a lot of high-powered offenses. I wouldn't necessarily call the Titans that.
Yeah.
So I really would be a little worried. I agree with you. I think game script can downgrade. I'm going to have him as a follower this week, Derrick Henry. He'll be a follower on my Sunday, rise and fall list. And if you guys can get, I mean, you're not going to, like we said, you're not going to not start him, but just be mindful that he might not have as great of a week as you want him to have. Outside of that, like I said, I think Ryan Tannehill is an interesting DFS flyer for really cheap. You can pair him with AJ Brown. I think if he's back, they're going to take some shots to him, and I think he could be productive. I personally love Janu Smith. The matchups, Bills letting up the 6 most points against tight ends. Love that matchup. So I think they're going to try to exploit that. They love Janu Smith. So this is just lining up to be a Janu Smith game where he gets 2 touchdowns potentially. I don't know if he does that, but I think.
But that's his ceiling. Which I think it's fair to say based on what you said before. Like, he's going to get you at least 8 points. This could be the one week where he explodes beyond that. He could be in the attic instead of just on the ceiling.
Agreed. Exactly. So just to recap here, before we move on, is there anyone else that piques your interest that you're looking at right now that maybe either picking up, starting?
There's one big name we totally missed, man. Lee Smith.
Lee Smith, man. I mean, if you don't Lee Smith in your lineup, you
If
are
you know, like, I don't know what you guys are thinking. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. No,
the,
that's a joke, 100%. Like
we'll add in a caption
Lee
for enter
Smith.
sarcasm, you know.
Yeah. do not pick up Lee Smith. I'm only kidding.
And also to that note, not kidding, don't pick up Adam Humphries. Don't pick up guys like that. Defensively, I'm not thrilled about these matchups
Yeah.
this week at all. Bills playing a little better, but I'm still not going to go out of my way to start them. And then again, Stephon Diggs, you're going to start. Singletary, I love him. Great matchup this week. Even if Zach Moss is back, I think that as long as he's not fumbling, it's his job right now. So
you think it's Singletary's job or Zach Moss?
No, I think it's Singletary's job as long as he doesn't fumble a lot. You know, I don't think he's going crazy. It's not like 18 for 55 or whatever that is up there. It's not great, but you know he's getting sick. He had the 5 receptions, 21 yards. If you have full point PPR, you love that. And then he had the touchdown. So I think for him, I'm worried about the receptions this week. So I think that number could be down a little bit, but I do believe that he'll get a touchdown again this week. If I had to put my money on it, obviously you're going to start Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill again. Streaming option DFS could be interesting. Pick up if you need a bye week filler. He is one of those guys that outside of Teddy Bridgewater that maybe I would consider also. Just be mindful. AJ Brown needs to be back for him to be that viable. So,
sure.
Moving right along here, Matt, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a loss, Cincinnati, heading into Houston. No Bill O'Brien, the Houston Texans now. Romeo Crennel leading the show here in Houston. Listen, I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen. It's a divisional game.
I don't know. Yeah.
Who knows? What I will say, though, DJ Chark, if you have him, you start him. It was super clear 2 weeks ago, and now even more clear this week, that DJ Chark, this offense kind of runs through him from a passing perspective. If Gardner Minshew, put it this way, if DJ Chark is out, you're sitting Gardner Minshew. I mean, it just seems to be that at least.
Makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like without him in there, that team just did not look great against Miami. It was good defense, but just didn't look great against them. Clearly, 25 fantasy points here, 9 targets, 95 yards, 6 catches for 2 touchdowns. I mean, listen, I told you not to make that trade, Matt, and I still stand by it.
I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, you keep him on your team. DJ Chark is a clear number 1 on this lineup, and he is, outside of James Robinson, he is a must-start every week, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I will say one thing, just in case anybody had the same idea I had last week, and maybe Chris Thompson will do something. Fuck Chris Thompson. Fuck him. I lost by 7 points this week. Listen, Chris Thompson put up 0.
I kind of recommended him for you for that, and I'm sorry.
But it was listen, it was picking the best piece of shit out of the toilet. Yeah. Let's be honest. Like
I saw people starting him in my league, and he got 0-2, and I'm just like, dude, how do you? And it's crazy because you look at this now. It's very encouraging for James Robinson, who got all the receptions, and 432. But the reality is that they didn't throw it a lot. 5 targets total to the running backs from that perspective. Not surprising with Jay Gruden. I said it during one of the games. I'm like, typical Jay Gruden, going to underutilize his running backs, and luckily he's not doing that yet with James Robinson. I worry that will come down the road. But looking at the matchup here for the Texans, 4th against running backs, Matt, you're going to go with James Robinson this week.
Yeah.
While he's still hot with a team that just lost their head coach. It could be a bad thing or a good thing. I'm going to assume a good thing. I love James Robinson this week. He's going to be a top 10 guy for me as long as he continues to produce the way he's producing. That being said, Matt, let's talk about a little tougher matchup. Texans are 19th against both quarterbacks and wide receivers. Obviously, we're starting DJ Chark, but is this a Gardner Minshew week? Remember, we go back here. Texans 19th against quarterbacks. All right, can they be high powered?
Still winless too, right?
Still winless. Divisional game. They are away, so they're in Houston. Just remember that.
I might roll with them, honestly. I think Minshew's kind of a baller, to be 100% real with you. And the Texans are in a little bit of flux. I don't know that they necessarily rally under Crennel right now. I think that's more of a hit kind of to their mental states as opposed to like a boost. It's not like he was universally hated. I don't think people liked him, but I don't think he was like reviled. So I think you really got to go with the safer bet in Minshew here.
I'm actually on the same page with you there. I like Minshew this week. I feel like people that have him also have like Matthew Stafford, so he's a great bye week filler. You could throw him up there with Teddy and Ryan Tannehill. I think the matchup, like we said, is really good for him. Not really good, but good. So I do think he's gonna play well. I think he can even do some things with his feet this week, Matt. Maybe get a rushing touchdown, Gardner Minshew. Wouldn't be
I would love to
surprised in
see
the
that.
league. He's done it
Love to see
before,
that. Yeah.
so I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if they did that kind of thing. Try to do some kind of misdirection, RPO with Robinson. Who knows? Um, on the other side of this, Matt, we looked at this already, but Deshaun Jackson. Oops, I didn't even start my timer, so it's okay. It doesn't matter. We're gonna just finish this and whatever it is, it is. All right. So, let me just. I gotta move my mouse here. So Deshaun Jackson, Matt, he is going up against a really, well, not a really good defense for him particularly, but he has potential here to have a good game. Jaguars are 13th in terms of giving up the 13th most fantasy points. So on the higher side of things, here's where I really like his potential value. Running back, 6th most points given up to running backs right now. Jaguars are. Tight ends giving up the 8th most. Wide receiver is tough though, 23rd in terms of points giving up. So very stingy against wide receivers. Weirdly enough, Matt, but everything else seems kind of passable, right? I don't know though. What do you think about Deshaun Watson? I know we talked about the coaching, but is it going to impact his game too?
Probably. I mean, I think he's the most impacted by not having his number one. Obviously. I feel bad for the guy, honestly. I really do. I think he's one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league. I think he's got a subpar, and subpar might not even be the right word. Cast of wide receivers, losing the coach, having Romeo Crennel as more of a defensive mind come in. I don't think we see too much of the playbook change. I'm down on him this week.
You know what? It's weird. I've been down on him every single week so far. I'm going to be a little opposite this week, and I'm not 100% sold on this, so I don't know how much you take into this, but I think Deshaun is going to have a decent day. A decent day. Now, I'm not saying he's going to go off for, just 17 points. I think he's going to have like a 20-point game. I think he could put up similar stats here, get some yardage, maybe get some more rushing yards, maybe a touchdown there. I don't know. David Johnson, I'm not as sold on. He's someone I'm going to try. Well, I'm sorry. David Johnson, I am sold on, rather.
Gotcha.
Going up against 6 against the Jaguars, they do let up a lot of points. The defense is Swiss cheese, it seems like, every time I see them. I like David Johnson this week. Guy who I also like to get a little bit more points here is Duke Johnson. I think Deshaun might utilize, other areas outside of wide receiver. I think it's getting too stale. I know Atkins got a little hurt this week. I don't know if he's starting. Darren Fells could be an interesting option. Not to start on your end, but just in terms of getting some points.
Just in terms of, yeah.
Deshaun, I don't know if he could be a really deep DFS. If Atkins is out, man, actually, he could be a very deep DFS. 8th against tight ends in terms of points giving up. So,
yeah.
Darren Fells, look out for that. If Atkins is out, he could be a very deep play, especially DFS. I might throw a $1 lineup and just see how he does. But as that all being said, Matt, wide receivers, you know what? If you're starting Deshaun Watson, Matt, I'm kind of with you. Don't look at this from the 13th perspective. I look at this from the 23rd against wide receivers. That is not good when you don't have stud wide receivers to really rely on, who might get hurt at any moment with this team, especially Will Fuller. I agree with you. I'm actually going to be a little more. I was actually a little higher on Deshaun. You kind of convinced me. Maybe I'm going to tier him a little down still. I think he has some decent play. I think
he stole Deshaun Watson. He stole Deshaun Watson. Don't count him out, but I just don't love the matchup. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is, did their offensive coordinator change? Like, I understand Bill O'Brien took over like a week ago, the play calling, but I'm pretty sure the same guy is still there, right? So it's like now that he's gone, it's not. I don't think the offense is going to be like all of a sudden it's going to be electric that Bill O'Brien's gone. Maybe the defense could be a little more free. But
the one thing that this team needed was a number one receiver, and they gave away the best in the league for a running back that doesn't help.
It doesn't feel good if you're a Texas fan thinking like no DeAndre. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but no DeAndre.
Yeah.
No first round picks or second round picks. I mean, every week the Dolphins are looking at this. They have their first and second. So Texans are getting destroyed. Dolphins might have 2 top 5 picks.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
genius by them.
oh yeah.
Outside of them not getting DeAndre out of that whole haul, you know what I'm saying? But
Which I think they would have if they knew they could have.
right,
You know
right.
what I
I don't
mean?
think
Like,
I don't think anyone knew that you can get him like that. Like, who fucking thought that? So, for me, Matt, going back to these matchups here, Texans. I like David Johnson this week. I think you start him. I don't think he's going to be overly amazing. Like I said, I think Duke Johnson gets a little involved and does vulture some production. Tight end, I think you could take a flyer this week on a Darren Fells if Atkins is out only. All
yeah.
right, if they both in, don't even touch the tight ends in this game. Not worth it. Um, and then honestly, Deshaun we're down on, even though he's going up against the 13th ranked Jaguars, divisional matchup, lost a head coach. We think some factors could play into them maybe not playing too well here. On the other side, we do like Minshew, even though he has a tougher matchup to a degree. I'm sorry. Yeah, to a degree. I don't think it's that much tougher, Matt. So I agree with you. I'm in on Gardner. I'm out on Deshaun Watson still until I see it. David Johnson, I think he'll get you your floor of not 10 fantasy points. I'm not touching the receivers. Tight end, depending on if he's out, maybe Darren Fells, and then of course DJ Chark, James Robinson, you're starting.
Yep.
Outside of that, Chris Thompson, we're going to leave on the bench. This could be an interesting matchup for him because they do give a lot of points here. But like you said, Matt, I mean, the 0 just is very discouraging. I feel like,
Yeah.
people are going to want to go out of their way for that.
Not at all. He's dead to me. That's the way that goes. He's on that Anthony Miller. I gave Anthony Miller a second chance. I'm like, you're out too. Bye.
And I have to be honest, man. Like being a Washington fan, Chris Thompson, we loved him in Washington. So
he was great for you guys there.
guy.
If you were still in Washington, I'd probably trust him. But
and a great guy too. But like, you know what? Jay Gruden just not utilizing him the way, and it seems to be the James Robinson show, which is cool. It is what it is. We'll move on for that. I like Duke Johnson over Chris Thompson this week if I was going to choose between those two. Just personally. Outside of that, Matt, any of the wide receivers in Jacksonville you're taking a shot on? Chenault, Cole.
Not even my boy Colin Johnson. No, I'm not taking out anybody outside of DJ Chark. I think Johnson's going to take a year or two, but eventually people will be like, where'd this guy come from? He's going to be
right.
a huge red zone threat for them.
I only know about him because of you. So, I mean, if he does...
That's what I'm saying. This is my deep stash for if you have a dynasty league with one extra spot, like he's my deep stash.
Right, exactly. Now, not talking fantasy necessarily, Matt. We have 3 minutes here. So I just want to mention something here. It's more of a question. What happened to D.D. Westbrook?
Dude, I don't know. I honestly was trying to figure that out the other day. I thought maybe he was hurt or like, something happened. He was on IR and I missed it. I have no clue what happened there or why they're not trying to at least move him. Like, shit, man, we'll take him in New York at this point. Like, we need something. Like, honestly, we need a body at receiver to really help take some pressure off and do something with Daniel Jones. So I'll offer him a trade, but Dave Gettleman sucks. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm right. No. I'm right there with you though. Like that was where I was leaning towards, or where I was going to go towards. Is if they're not going to use him. And by the way, he had not been injured. He's just been not getting on the field. He was playing special teams, and he wasn't. I think one of the weeks he was inactive, but he was active for most of them, and he just wasn't in. So that's even weirder to me. And I agree with you. I saw enough last year where, damn, Washington, send them a goddamn 5th rounder and pick up him. I mean, I'm sure they don't think he's worth that if he's 6 on their fucking depth chart. It's just really odd. He's a great talent. He's not as good as DJ Chark, clearly, but in my opinion, he could easily be a number 2. Maybe not easily, but he could potentially be a number 2 on someone's team, And I agree with you. I don't know what the fuck happened to him. But for everyone's sake, can you please fucking trade him, Jacksonville? We would love to use him in Washington. Love to.
Yeah.
Next game on the docket here, we got a divisional matchup, Matt. We got the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a first win for Joe Burrow against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
There you go.
And then the Baltimore Ravens, who pretty much spanked my Washington football team. Now, granted,
I mean,
it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's also kind of to be expected. You got to think they're going to do something there.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not surprised to see Lamar get his first rushing touchdown against us. You know, I'm not surprised about these things.
That was only his first.
That was his first rushing touchdown of the year.
What?
Well, you have to listen.
The teams are ready for it. Yeah.
But that's where so when we talk about Lamar Jackson, there's a lot of debate, and I didn't start the clock here, but let's just start it here real quick. There's a lot of debate about Lamar Jackson about being a good passer and not passer. Here is what Lamar Jackson is, and you can try to debate me, you're going to be wrong, but this is exactly what Lamar Jackson is.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal talent, no doubt about it. He is a quarterback. All right, I'll say that. I was one that was kind of like, we should be a wide receiver.
I was too. I was too.
But the reality with Lamar, and I think what we really saw in the KC game exemplifies this perfectly. Lamar is a guy who benefits from being able to utilize his feet, keep defenses honest. So what I mean by that is that every single play they have to have in the back of their mind, hey, we need to make sure that he doesn't run the ball. Because of that, coverages are a little bit looser. Guys get open a little easier because they're so focused on Lamar Jackson. So yes, he can hit these passes and he throws these guys and he has these touchdowns and decent yards. But it's not like he's Aaron Rodgers who's going to thread the needle and make these or Patrick Mahomes who's going to make these amazing throws. He's not going to do that unless he gets the defense to kind of bite up a little bit. And again, you're not going to take that away from him. That's his game. And it's great. That's what the quarterbacks are becoming anyway. But let's not sit here and act like he is just an elite passer who can hit every single throw.
Yeah,
I've seen him not be able to do that. Right. So that's what Lamar Jackson is. He's a fantastic quarterback. He's an amazing athlete and runner.
Oh yeah.
And he's a good he's a good thrower. But is he elite? No. He's not. And you can throw stats at me, you could throw touchdowns, and that doesn't matter. What I'm referring to is what his legs literally not even utilizing, but what he just does having them.
Yeah.
Knowing that. So I had to say that real quick because I've seen that debate every day, and it's such a stupid fucking debate because there's one answer.
It's like it's like he's good, but not for the reasons traditional quarterbacks have been good.
Right. He could be he could be an elite quarterback without being an elite passer.
Right.
All right. And I think
he is. I would say that's pretty much what he is. Exactly. The fact that defenses are, like you said, staying honest just off his legs, it speaks for itself. That being said, Ravens definitely win this game. I really don't know who I would start from the Bengals for this. Sorry to change the subject. I was just looking at it, just like
I was going to say. So before we get into the matchups, what they did the week before, let's just take a look now. We'll go Bengals first. All right, so let's keep it simple here. Joe Burrow got his first win, 15 points though, nothing crazy, 300 yards. I know he had a fumble here, that's why it's not showing, but he had 2 turnovers. Joe Mixon exploded, like we said. Tyler Boyd, honestly consistent with 12 points there. He's definitely the guy, which is great. T. Higgins, again, Matt, I had him highlighted because he was 3% last week. Well, this week he had 11 points again. Seems like he might be coming the number 2 on the Bengals here.
Yeah.
And now, Matt, when you look at this, Ravens are really tough against running backs and wide receivers, but quarterbacks letting up a decent amount of points. Even Dwayne Haskins, 300 plus. He had 18 points fantasy-wise in this league against them, comparative here. So my question to you, Matt, is even though it's a tough matchup, I love Joe Burrow this week, man.
Yeah.
I love him. I love him this week.
Hey, I'll roll with you. I mean, I think he's getting better and better, obviously. You get that win, you get a little confidence under your belt. I'm very anti the matchup, for lack of a better word.
I agree with you, but I feel like I'm more anti-matchup for Joe Mixon than I am Joe Burrow. I think because you go back, Ravens, while they are letting up points to the quarterback, they are very stingy against the run. 25th most points. So, 7th least amount in the league or whatever that is.
Yeah.
That's a tough matchup for Joe Mixon, who just had a really strong week, division rival. I do expect the Ravens to win as well, by the way. But I'm down on Mixon this week. I love Joe Burrow. I think he could be a sleeper against a team who, while they're a good defense, I don't think any defense outside of maybe Indianapolis, in my opinion, is the best defense this year. I think Ravens are really good. Don't get me wrong, but I think they've gotten a little bit exposed. And I watched that Washington game, man. Listen, it was more play calling that kind of got in our way, and some of the weird dink and dunks. But Dink and Dunk really worked with them this week, and I think Joe
Yeah.
Burrow can utilize Tyler Boyd in a similar fashion. I think maybe Gio Bernard gets a little more involved over. That's why even Joe Mix this week is even more down. Um, but I really like Tyler Boyd. For this matchup too, even though again it's a tougher matchup for wide receivers, 20th against them. Um, Matt, I have to say this every week,
Uh-oh.
2 weeks in a row. I've been big on Drew Sample, and both weeks he fucked me really, really hard.
So you're not getting a good sample size?
So I'm getting a terrible sample size here. I mean, I pretty much a non-existent sample size, and I kind of want to take a little sample here. Run across the tray this week and stick my toothpick into the sample. Take this motherfucker and go this week because I think if the wide receivers do struggle here, maybe it is Drew Sample that gets in the end zone. I'm not going to say you're going to start him or this or that. I don't even know if I'm going to put him in DFS.
Right.
But I think he could be a little more productive this week. I think he'll help out. I think he'll get more than 5 targets at least. So if you're really in a deep league and you really need tight end help, I'm not going to say go out of your way for Drew Sample, but I think he will be productive. I'm going to predict him to get a touchdown this week. All right, a little bold here. Now, on the other side of that, Matt, we talked about Lamar. You're going to start him. 26 against quarterbacks, but I'm not worried about the quarterback rank because that's, it's Lamar. It doesn't matter. Geno Atkins might also be out, by the way. So if the middle of that line is open there, give me a little bit of Mark Ingram this week. I know it's tough with these running backs, man, but it just seems like Mark Ingram's still kind of the guy who's going to get you some production. Now, granted, he is strictly touchdown dependent at this point.
Yeah.
Gus Edwards getting carries is my biggest fear, Matt, and it's starting to happen.
It's starting to come. He had 1 or 2 weeks where he had like 10 points, if I'm not mistaken.
Last week he had 9 carries. I think he was second on the team with carries. This week, what do you have? He had 9 carries again. I mean, he led the team in carries this week. Led the team in carries,
which sucks because he's not doing anything of value to really pick up. You know, it's just a stat at this point.
Exactly. Now, one thing he doesn't get is receptions. So if you're going to go with one, go with the other 2 guys. I'm not going to go out of my way to start J.K. Dobbins. He's too
a down the line guy. Yeah, he's a down the line like next year.
Exactly. And I mean, again, like we said, Mark Ingram could be a guy here who I do kind of like this week, Matt. But at the same time, I think the guy that I like the most this week, weirdly enough, is Marquise Brown for the Ravens. I know it's 16th against wide receivers, so they're decent. Bengals are decent against wide receivers, but I do think that this game, I do think that Joe Burrow might get surprise this Ravens a little bit, and I think Marquise Brown gets more production this week. I think he gets over Mark Andrews for sure. I think Mark Andrews has another potentially down week. Maybe not down, but not 20-point week like I predicted last week.
I don't see him kind of repeating that.
Nope.
Unfortunately.
So here's the deal. If you guys have better starting receivers, maybe it's a better week to not go with Marquise Brown. I think he's a boomer bust candidate. I do think he gets in the end zone this week. Or I'm sorry, not in the end zone, but maybe like a big play, so maybe like a 50-yard, reception or something crazy. But I just volume, I just don't know what he's going to get. Mark Andrews, I would be more comfortable with volume from that perspective, but at the same time, you're going to start him. But at the same time, just don't look for the 20-point game that he had last week. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, don't look for a repeat. I see that.
Ravens defense, even though I like Joe Burrow, you're obviously going to start Ravens D. Just because I like Joe Burrow doesn't mean that they can't get a fumble on Joe Mixon or someone like that. AJ Green, man, he's droppable. If you didn't drop him already, you should drop him now.
It's a damn shame. I wanted him to come back this year. I was really hoping this was going to be it. I really thought like, oh, AJ Green finally got a quarterback. Let's see what he can do. And he's just not the same.
No, clearly not the same. And he's losing favor of a young quarterback who is looking for that comfortability. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins seems to have the edge.
Yeah.
Listen, again, T. Higgins, I don't know if you're going to go out of your way to start, but I kind of like him in this matchup too. If you need a deep round flyer, if you're dealing with what I'm dealing with, like I had a bunch of injuries at wide receiver, listen, T. Higgins could be a really interesting option. I love T. Higgins and Joe Burrow for DFS streaming.
Yeah.
The 2 of them are going to be cheap together, I think, and so you can really build a nice lineup with that too. Drew Sample, maybe a sleeper. I'm not going to put my money on that. And Joe Mixon, personally, I'm sitting, Matt. I don't like him.
Don't blame you. Like I said, there's not too much to love in that game.
No. I mean, you're going to go with your quarterbacks, in my opinion. I think Joe Burrow, again, start of the week for this game. I think he has a really good game against a tough defense, but I think he surprises people this week.
Yeah.
Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement.